Ladies and gentlemen, it's the 10th episode of Touchline Tugao, and before we get started, you may be looking at me thinking, well, you don't look like you do before, or if you're new here, you might be like, what's with the awful moustache? I am raising money for men's mental health for the month of November. Of course, you may know it as Movember. The link will be in the description. I'm trying to raise, I think, around sort of £500 or euros was the goal. I'm going to be running 60k in the whole month of November, so hopefully I'll get there. I'm already 5k down. Well, hopefully by the time this video goes live, I'll be 5k down. And there's no pressure. I know there's a cost of living crisis, but if you just share with your friends or share the link, donate, whatever you can do, I appreciate it. The link will be in the description. But without further ado, let's get on to the reason we're all here, and that is the 10th episode of Touchline Tugao. It has been a week of gold, but let's start off with the first game, and that is Sporting 2, Alverca 0. It was a back-to-back games for Sporting versus Alverca as they played them in the Taça de Liga, or the Allianz Cup, earlier in the week, and they had to play them again on Friday, this time the result being 2-0. And the first half, Sporting had 27 attacks, with Alverca only having 3, but both teams failed to really hit the target in the first half. Jenny arguably got the closest, hitting the post from the edge of the box, but Luis Suarez also had a shot blocked off the line twice by Alverca defender Moepu, first with his knee and then one with his head. João Simões had 2 different chances from headers, but hit both over the bar, and he also had the great chance in the box from a maxi cross, but unfortunately he had it blocked before he could actually get the shot off. And in the second half, whatever Reborn said at half time, Sporting came out a team reborn. Luis Suarez thought he had scored, sneaking in at the back post to score in the 52nd, but unfortunately it was ruled offside. But mostly thanks to the substitution of Fotis Ioannidis, he scored from a Pedro Gonçalves corner, in which I generally don't remember the last time Sporting scored from a corner to make it 1. But that substitution of Fotis Ioannidis changed the whole game. Pedro Gonçalves, less than 10 minutes later, scored an absolute beauty to make it 2. And from there, the game was no longer in doubt. And Ousmane Diomande, Vagianidis and Inacio were all fantastic at the back, not allowing Alverca to get a single shot on target the whole game. But to their credit, Alverca also defended pretty well, away from home especially, to keep it 2. A solid game all round, Sporting the deserved winners, but Alverca still performing pretty well defensively. The best players for me, Sporting, I'm going to go with Pedro Gonçalves. A goal, an assist, 6 key passes, 3 out of 4 long balls, and 1 2 out of 4 ground duels. For Alverca, I'm going to go with Basin Moepu. I mentioned him earlier with his 2 clearances off the line, but he also had 3 out of 3 ground duels won, 2 out of 3 tackles won, and even went on a dribble at one point, which someone for his size is actually very good for the ball at his feet. Moving on to the worst players, and that is Jenny Catamo for Sporting. A frustrating game for the winger. Even though he did hit the post, he was poor overall. He was predictable with his take-ons, only completing 1 out of 3 dribbles, losing possession 14 times, and only winning 1 ground duel out of 4. For Alverca, I've gone with Cedric Nuozi. Despite rage-baiting Maxi Arujo, the winger had a quiet game. Won 1 out of 9 ground duels, 0 out of 5 dribbles completed, and lost possession 12 times. Moving on to Madeira, where Nacional hosted Famalicão, where Famalicão got the 1-0 win. And Hugo Oliveira's men yet again with another win. And at this moment, they might be my favourites for 4th place. But I will say generally this is one of the most boring first halves I've ever seen, with each team only having 1 shot on target in the first 45. But the first Famalicão shot on goal would actually result in a goal. They would score from the 46th minute from a long range shot from Soriso, which was saved by Kaike and parried into the path of Juju to score in the 46th minute. It was a battle of the defence. Nacional would score in the 52nd minute, but it was ruled off for offside, only by a small 103 centimetres. Why it needed a VAR check or even the lines drawn is, another thing in itself, but 103 centimetres is quite big. But I digress. Zé Victor had been solid for Nacional this season, but a challenge would see him earn a second yellow and a red. And although I did think it was a harsh second yellow, I think he got the ball. Maybe he got the player first a bit, but I don't think it was deserving of a second yellow in my opinion. But if you're on a yellow card already, you should probably be a bit more careful. So he was shown a second yellow. From there, Nacional had a few attempts to score on goal, but never looked like they were going to, even with 10 men. And Gil Diaz had a chance to wrap it up in the 94th minute, but missed an easy 1-on-1. But luckily for him, the final whistle blew after that, and Famalicão and Hugo Oliveira went off with a win. The best players for me for Nacional is Jesus Ramirez, and the striker didn't score, but he was still effective in other areas. 1 shot on target, 2 key passes, 2 out of 3 dribbles completed, and even won 8 out of 17 aerial duels. For Militao, I'm going to go with Soriso. I thought he was a big part for the goal and arguably deserved an assist from it. 4 key passes, won 3 out of 5 aerial duels and made 7 recoveries, and also 28 out of 33 accurate passes. The worst, of course, for Nacional has to be Zé Victor. Was red card harsh? Possibly, but he still shouldn't have made that tackle on a yellow. Before that, he only won 1 out of 4 ground duels, lost possession 7 times, and it was an unusual poor performance from the centre-back. For Militao, I feel like I put him here every time, but I've gone with Simon Elisor. 75 minutes played, 4 shots and 0 on target, lost possession 7 times, and lost all 6 of his aerial duels, and lost 2 out of 6 ground duels. Moving on to my game of the weekend, and that was Casa Pia 3, Estrela Amadora 5. The best game of the weekend by a country mile. It was an 8-goal thriller, 10 if you count the offside goals as well. And Gyokeres 4, he got Estrela ahead first, but was offside by 10 centimetres, and it was enough to rule the goal out. And Casa Pia would actually take the first goal, with a great finish from Cassiano, with a great finish from a great cross from Manzona. But literally 30 seconds later, Gyokeres would finally score and equalise after a fantastic cross from Marcus Abraham, and an even better header from Gyokeres. Casa Pia would give away a penalty soon after great work from Sidney Lopez Cabral to get around Larrazabal, and then Mohamed to eventually foul him. And the penalty was converted by Lopez Cabral. Casa Pia would equalise through half-time through a Mohamed goal, although a deflection would play a massive part in from Patrick. In the 60th minute, Casa Pia goalkeeper Schettine, who had recently returned from injury, gave away a penalty after some awful defending from Larrazabal. And even though the penalty wasn't great, Lopez Cabral would convert for his second of the game. Estrela would make it 4-2 thanks from a great goal from Paulo Moreira, with a great run and a strike from outside the box to beat Schettine. Again after some shambolic passing and defending from Casa Pia. And Lopez Cabral would make it a hat-trick after a fantastic goal. First the pass from Ngom, cutting in on his right, past 2 defenders, and then a great finish to seal his hat-trick. And Jose Font would get a consolation goal after a free kick eventually found its way to the former Portuguese international, and he headed it in. Or would that be the consolation? You see, Cassiano, despite slipping on the free kick, still converted the chance and made it 5-4 with a minute to go. In the 96th minute, with 7 minutes in total added time. But the goal was actually ruled out because he actually touched the ball twice on the free kick. So it was ruled out and it was 5-3. And that's how the game ended. But weirdly, at full time, teammates Jovan and Lopez Cabral had to be separated. For what reason, I'm not really sure, but it was still an awkward moment at the end of the game, considering they also won 5-3. The best players for me is Casa Pia and Cassiano. He scored and arguably should have had 2. I feel like that ruled out goal maybe was unfair. Did he touch it twice? Potentially, but I don't know, man. I felt it was quite harsh, but rules are rules, I suppose. But he won 3 out of 5 ground duels and created 1 out of 1 long balls. First it has to be the hat-trick hero, Sidney Lopez Cabral. 2 penalties and a screamer, 3 out of 4 dribbles completed, won 6 out of 10 ground duels, and won his only aerial duel. The worst for me, Casa Pia, has to be Patrick Schettine. The goalkeeper had only returned from injury, only made 1 save despite conceding 5 goals. He had a goals prevented of minus 1.36, and he gave away a penalty, although some blame on the penalty must go to Larrazabal. For Estrela, I'm going to go with centre-back Otavio. He was subbed off by minute 55, and for good reason. He lost all of his ground and aerial duels, 3 and 2 respectively, lost possession 14 times, and was booked. Moving on to Vila do Conde, where Estoril beat Rio Ave 4-0, and Ian Capra's men finally got a victory away from home against Rio Ave. And it started off really poorly for Rio Ave, as Jonathan Panzo arguably got the silliest red of the season. After some great team play from Estoril, Begraoui found himself through on goal when Panzo decided to pull him down. Understandable in the dying minutes, but to do that in the 20th minute, a schoolboy error, and he was sent off, meaning that Rio Ave had to play the rest of the game with 10. And Estoril would score 15 minutes later as Laximan found himself on the end of a Gonzalo Costa cross. But unfortunately, it was ruled for offside in the build-up as Gonzalo Costa was offside. But that saved the blushes of Cesare Mista, who came out to collect the ball, stopped halfway through, leaving an easy finish for Laximan. But again, was ruled out. But Estoril would quickly answer back in the 39th minute. This time Begraoui with an excellent finish after a great pass and interception from Jordan Holsgrove. And Rio Ave really struggled to match Estoril's tempo, when Pedro Carvalho cross found Begraoui and the Moroccan made it his second in the game. Gonzalo Costa was fantastic today. This time in the 56th minute, His move gave the ball to Holsgrove, who found Joao Carvalho, who unfortunately hit the post. And Holsgrove was also excellent, getting his second assist of the game after a cross from the Scotsman found Laximan to make it 3-0. To add insult to injury for Rio Ave, Cesare Mista would foul Thiago Parente in the box, giving away a penalty, which Begraoui would seal his hat-trick to make it 4-0. Estoril were never in doubt, especially after the red, and it was a much needed confidence boost for Ian Cathro and his Estoril side. But it was a poor game, especially from Jonathan Panzo, and Rio Ave were really left with no choice but to try and park the bus, and unfortunately it didn't work out. The best players for me, Rio Ave, no one. You lost 4-0, you can't have a best player, I'm afraid. For Estoril, I'm going to go with Begraoui, of course, a hat-trick hero. He got a man sent off as well, completed 2 out of 2 dribbles and won 3 out of 4 ground duels. But shout out to Jordan Holsgrove and also Gonzalo Costa, as I thought they were fantastic. The worst for Rio Ave is going to be Panzo, man. A red card in 20 minutes is just schoolboy stuff. Up to that point, he lost possession 4 times anyway, lost his only tackle, and you could argue lost the game for Rio Ave. For the worst player for Estoril, I'm actually not going to give one. It was a solid performance all round. It was a 4-0 win. It was great stuff, and I know it was against 10, but I wish I saw more of this dominance from Estoril earlier. Even for that Panzer red card, that team move was just so fantastic. One pass to the next, a great football to Begraoui, and when he was fouled. So Estoril need to continue this form if they want to progress through the season. Moving on to Benfica 3, Victoria 0, and it was Guimarães who were at home, but Benfica managed to beat a 10-man Victoria side with the game full of controversy. In the first half, Victoria looked level, if not better than Benfica did, as Victoria created the most clear-cut chances, although Trubin was really tested that much. And some would actually argue that Sudakov should have been sent off for Benfica after a poor tackle on Samu. Could I see it being a red? Of course. Do I think it was? I'm sort of on the fence. Does it look below the ankle or just on it? I don't know, but the issue is there's no consistency with the refereeing, as this has been given as a red and hasn't been given as a red at the same time. And I'm sure in a few weeks' time this same tackle will happen again and someone will probably be sent off. There's just no consistency with the decisions. But if you have to ask my opinion, Sudakov was very lucky not to be sent off there. And the first half did end 0-0. Benfica did have more possession to their credit, but Victoria had 3 shots on target to Benfica's 1. And Benfica had found the best chance up at the game until that point in the second half. In the 49th minute, a cross from Luca Bayo found Barrio's head, who hit it straight at the Victoria goalkeeper Castillo. And Pavlidis then put the rebound wide, and to be honest, it looked easier to score than miss. Luca Bacchio would then force another save from Castillo, this time from a free kick around 30 yards out, but it was a great save from the Victoria keeper nonetheless. But unfortunately for him, Benfica would score from the resulting corner, after Thomas Arujo found his head on the end of a Luca Bacchio cross, giving Benfica the lead in the 53rd minute. And to be fair, it was poor defending from Victoria Guimarães. And things went from bad to worse to Guimarães, as Fabio Blanco was shown a straight red card for a high foot. It didn't really catch Barrio clean, I would say, but it still did hit his knee and nearly stopped him from having kids if the foot was 1 centimetre to the right. But still a reckless tackle, and if it did connect, it would have been a dangerous call. For me, that's the right decision, a red card. And soon after, Dal would score an absolute rocket in the 61st minute, after a great pass from Barrio, if he meant it, found the left back, who found the net with full force, leaving Castillo no chance. And Barrio once again had a chance to score a header, but yet again hit it straight at the goalkeeper. And Castillo had another fantastic save from an Enzo strike outside the box, getting a fingertip to what would have been a certain goal. And although he made a save from another Enzo strike, he unfortunately parried it into the direction of Joao Lego, who tapped it home for Benfica to make it 3-0. Victoria will feel very hard done by, and maybe rightly so, but Benfica put on a dominant second half performance. Benfica in 3 games, 11 goals and 0 conceded. Little by little this team is improving, and today we have to give credit to Mourinho. His substitutions and of course the red cards really made the difference. The best players for me though for Victoria, I'm going to have to go with the goalkeeper Castillo, a man let down by his defence, 7 saves, 17 out of 24 accurate passes and 8 out of 14 long balls. Benfica for me has to be Luca Bacchio, 1 assist, but arguably could have had 2 or 3 if Barrio could actually convert his chances. He created 3 big chances, 4 out of 6 crosses and 3 out of 5 dribbles. The worst for me for Victoria is Oscar Rivas, and usually I'd give it to the guy who gets the red, but if you look back at the first goal, is Oscar Rivas' man who sort of goes free, that will be Thomas Arujo, and scores the first goal. And Victoria were doing very well up until that point, And for me, that decision from Oscar Rivas changed the entire game. And maybe that red card doesn't happen as a result because Benfica would be winning the game at that point. So yeah, for me, I'm going to go with Oscar Rivas. For Benfica, I'm going to go with Sudakov, and mostly because I thought he was maybe still lucky to be on the pitch. But he was brought off after 45 minutes after sort of nothing performance. Lost possession 10 times, 0-1 crosses, and 1 shot that was off target. And moving on to AVS 2, Tondela 2. And breaking news, AVS haven't lost a game. But to be fair, it was to someone one place above them. And Tondela would actually take the lead from a Ronnie Lopez strike in the 13th. Although it was straight at the AVS keeper Joao Gonçalves, who despite being a part of a dreadful AVS team, has been a consistent starter this far, and it was a rare mishap as he let the ball go through his hands. AVS rarely troubled Tondela in the first half, until just before half time where Sidney Bane would get a deflection off a shot from a Barbosa pass, but went over the head of Bernardo Fontes and made the game 1-1, and it would go 1-1 into half time. Bernardo Fontes managed to make a great save again from a Taman shot in the 59th, but couldn't stop an Oscar Pereira counter-attack to give AVS the lead in the 61st minute to make it 2-1. But really, under no danger at all, Sidney Bane decided to handball it in the box, giving Tondela a penalty, and Maranhão converted from the spot to tie it for Tondela. It was a hard-fought game for both teams, but in my opinion, it was a fair result nevertheless. Best players for me for AVS is Oscar Pereira, a goal from the winger, 2 out of 4 dribbles, 4 out of 7 ground duels won, and a solid game overall. For Tondela, I'm going to go with Ronnie Lopez. The former Portuguese international found himself on the score sheet, 2 shots and both on target, won 2 out of 4 ground duels, and was a threat all game until being subbed off in the 62nd minute. The worst for me for AVS is Joao Gonçalves, a massive error for the first goal. He only made 1 save all game and lost possession 11 times. For Tondela, I'm going to go with Thiago Manzo. The right back only won 2 out of 8 ground duels, was dribbled past twice, lost possession 11 times, and had a poor showing before being subbed off in the 62nd. It was another win for Moreirense against Aroca as they beat them 2-0, and Moreirense are back to their winning ways after a tough loss last week. And Schettine is back to his usual self, scoring a brace. And Schettine would actually score his first 11 minutes in, after a great cross from Landerson. A proper striker's finish from Schettine, and something we've been used to for the majority of this season. Schettine would make it 2, with pretty much an identical play from the first goal, but on the other side of the box, but a first time finish scoring, making it 2-0, this time the assist from Benny. A penalty was awarded for Moreirense after a foul on Alan, but VAR took a look and found actually Alan initiated the contact and it was ruled out. Aroca did have a few chances this game, but none that really tested André Ferreira, only having 2 shots on target all game. It was another impressive win for Vasco Botelho da Costa's men, as they are soaring this season, but another worry for Aroca as they have 3 losses in their last 5. The best players for me for Aroca is Hyatt Jun Lee. The Bayern Academy graduate was Aroca's best creator this game, 32 out of 33 passes, including 22 out of 23 in the opposition half, 2 out of 2 long balls, and overall a solid game. For Moreirense, it's going to be no one apart from Schettine. Of course it is, 2 goals and 2 shots, a proper striker's performance. The worst for me, Aroca Alfonso Teresa. No shots all games, lost the ball 6 times, only won 2 out of 6 ground duels, and lost both of his aerial duels. For Moreirense, I don't really think they had that bad a player, but I'm going to go with Diogo Travassos, only due to the fact he lost possession 12 times, didn't complete a single cross out of his only 1 attempt, a yellow card, and was subbed off at the 78th minute. Moving on to, I would say, I know I said Casa Pia versus Estrela was one of the games of the week, but this one was just as good, even though if there wasn't as many goals, and that is Porto 2, Braga 1. It was an incredible game, with both teams fighting until the final whistle. The game started off strongly, with Lagerbilke going in hard on Samu, with 2 strong tackles in the first 10 minutes, leaving Samu limping. But I will say Braga looked like the stronger team. They had most of the possession, but I will say both teams really did struggle to create clear-cut chances and break the other team down. And initially, Froholt would score off a corner, but either due to him leaving the pitch and scoring, which would make the play offside, or a foul on the goalkeeper, it was ruled out. With Porto only taking the lead from a deflecting shot, with Samu striking the ball from 30 yards out, accidentally hitting Rodrigo Moura, sending the goalkeeper Hornacek in the wrong direction, and somehow ending up in the bottom corner. Genuinely, the trajectory of that ball is crazy, and I wonder what the odds are, if you ask the scientist or mathematician, whatever it is, on how the odds on that goal happening from Samu's shot to go off Rodrigo Moura into the bottom corner. It was absolutely crazy. One of the massive, the biggest deflections I've ever seen. But in the second half, Braga would equalise from a corner. After poor defending mostly from Alberto Costa, who randomly claimed a foul for no reason, throwing himself to the floor, Zalazar crossed it back in to the head of Victor Gomez, who made it 1-1. And arguably Fran Navarro should have scored against his former club after a great ball from Ricardo Horta, but he hit it wide over the bar. Speaking of Victor Gomez, by the way, he would fall asleep for Porto's second and eventual winner, as Borja Sainz snuck up on a ball that Gomez thought he had under control, and to be fair, it was a brilliant finish from Borja Sainz to win the game for Porto. But apart from that, Braga have looked fantastic over the last few weeks, and they look fantastic today. And I think again it shows, much like last week, that Porto are not the unstoppable, unbeatable force that they may have looked earlier in the season. The best players for me, Porto, has to be Borja Sainz. The Spanish winger scored the winner, 1 shot, 1 goal, 1 out of 1 dribbles, and 1 his only tackle. For Braga, I'm going a bit left field with this one. I'm going to go with Ricardo Horta. I thought the little magician was fantastic. That glorious opportunity he set up for Fran Navarro, one, was not only a great ball, but was something that a lot of players couldn't do. The way he was able to chip that ball in sort of a smaller environment, I thought he was absolutely fantastic the whole game. The worst for me, Porto, I'm going to have to go with Alberto Costa. The right back was awful for the goal, had a dreadful performance all round really, some poor lapses of concentration from the right back, and really, I would say one of his worst performances since joining Porto in the summer. For Braga, it has to be Victor Gomez. He may have scored, but he may as well have been credited with an assist for Borja Sainz's goal. In the game with Porto, really didn't threaten all game. Victor Gomez gave that to them on a plate. And last but not least, we have Santa Clara losing 1-0 to Gil Vicente at home. And Gil Vicente are continuing to be a great team. Cesar Peixoto has them firing on all cylinders. And although they didn't score much today, it was still a great performance. And they got off to a flyer thanks to Pablo, again scoring after a great cross from new signing Joelson Fernandez, and of course former Sporting graduate as well. The striker converted the header. Santa Clara did claim a foul in the build-up, but nothing was given, and the goal stood. And in the first half, Santa Clara did have some great chances on goal, but Andrew again and again made some fantastic saves. He was absolutely phenomenal this game. But in the second half, the game got very fiery indeed. Elbows, fouls, you name it. In the 77th minute, there were 25 fouls overall and a number of yellow cards across teams. Santa Clara's inability to create chances and even convert the chances they do is a major reason why they're struggling in the league this season. But you have to give credit to Gil Vicente. They hung on against some of the pressure even though they were at home, and they managed to see out the victory. It was a great win by Cesar Peixoto's men. Pablo keeps scoring. Hopefully he might get called up to Portugal soon, you never know. But I've been very impressed with the striker, and Gil Vicente looked fantastic. My player of the game for Gil Vicente is going to be Joelson Fernandez. I thought he was incredible this game. He got fouled 3 times. He was just incredible. 1 big chance created, of course, from the assist. 2 out of 2 crosses accurate. Only 8 out of 8 accurate passes, but again, he didn't miss a single one. And he was just a nuisance all around for Santa Clara. For Santa Clara, I'm going to go with Sidney Lima. He's been one of my standout players for Santa Clara in a down season, but he has been very good when called upon. 2 tackles won out of the 2, 5 clearances, 2 interceptions, 5 out of 6 ground duels won, and 2 out of 2 aerial duels won. The worst performer for me for Gil Vicente has to be Zé Carlos. He only played 72 minutes, and in that time he only won 2 out of 8 ground duels, lost all 2 of his ground duels, and also lost possession 12 times. For Santa Clara, much like last week, is going to be Wendell Silva, a striker who really isn't a striker really. Didn't even have a single shot on goal again. I think that's the 2nd game week in a row. For someone who cost Santa Clara €1 million, he's been absolutely dreadful. He only managed to get 7 out of 8 passes the whole game. He lost possession 9 times and really just did nothing the whole game. And let's take a look at the league table. We got Porto in 1st, Sporting 2nd, Benfica 3rd, Gil Vicente 4th, Famalicão 5th, Moreirense 6th, Braga 7th, Santa Clara 8th, Nacional 9th, Rio Ave 10th, Vitória 11th, Estoril 12th, Estrela 13th, Alverca 14th, Aroca 15th, Casa Pia 16th, 17th Tondela and 18th AVS. And there has been another managerial sacking or mutual departure as João Pereira has left Casa Pia. As I recorded everything yesterday on Sunday, I did miss that bit off the video, but as it is now Monday evening, I've just finished watching the Santa Clara game, I can let you know that he has been sacked. I don't know, or mutual agreement, whatever it was. Don't know where he's going to go, but I think it's incredibly harsh. I feel like they've sold their best players. Obviously, Lelo left in the summer, and they haven't really recruited that well, but they have looked poor. They're definitely a team better than 16th, in my opinion. But it will be interesting where he goes and who replaces him. I think Alvaro Pacheco will actually replace him. There are rumours of the Sporting B manager replacing him, but I love Alvaro Pacheco, man. He is the GOAT and he is a drip god as well. So hopefully he's there. But yeah, another managerial sacking which adds to ABS and Benfica, and of course Estrela de Amadora. So 4 managerial sackings already. Are we going to see any more? Find out next week. I've been Sam Fonseca. Thank you very much for watching Touchline Tugao. Don't forget to donate to Movember if you can, or at least share the link. See you next time, and peace.